Notre Dame versus Duke, the preview. All right, I'll start off here. Duke, they're America's Cinderella team, and they're the team that I picked to upset Clemson week 1.
Yes, he did.
I remember, Chris, we did a segment in the offseason. What was it? That Duke gets, 8 or 9 wins. We're looking, I don't think we said that they would, but I'm telling you, we're looking real dumb right now. Here's the thing. 4-0, coming into a tough matchup against number 11 Notre Dame. At home, it's at home in Duke's home stadium there. Duke pulled away in that Clemson game, and they found some confidence for this season. They've won every game this year by multiple touchdowns. The defense has looked lights out as they're ranked number 16 in the country in total defense, which is really interesting to see how Sam Hartman and Notre Dame respond after a heartbreaking loss to Ohio State, Chris. Offensively, Duke is ranked 49th in the country, going up against a top 10 defense in Notre Dame. They've already played another top 10 defense in Clemson this year, and quarterback Riley Leonard has 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. He only has 2 passing touchdowns. However, the strength of his game comes on being able to run the ball. Jordan Waters, the running back, has 7 touchdowns on the year already, Chris. That's pretty damn impressive.
Absolutely.
This will be the toughest matchup that Duke has seen yet. My thing is, can they hold on for one more upset and keep the dream alive for another week? And then also, how is Notre Dame going to respond on the road after that loss to Ohio State?
Well, I'm going to tell you how they're going to respond here, Christian. Notre Dame 4-1, right? We know what happened last week. Heartbreaking loss. Christian touched on it against Ohio State, where they had 10 men on the field the last 2 plays. I don't know if anybody over there in that Catholic school can count, but clearly not on defense. Moving on, though, that was a close game, right? 0 turnovers, a lot of defense in that game. That was a good game in most people's eyes. But Sam Hartman needs to play better, in my opinion. He's played great up until that game. I didn't think he had a bad game. Notre Dame decided in the second half that they were going to pound the ball down Ohio State's throat, and they did that for most of the game. But Sam Hartman missed some throws, didn't look elite. I expect more out of a kid that's been playing, I swear, for like 18 years back there. He's got a beard like Christian's dad. This guy's been around for a long time. Here's the deal, though. Into this game against Duke, Christian touched on it. Duke's defense is for real. They are good. They're elite. They're a top 20 defense this year, without a doubt. I 100% agree with that. They're going to have to pound the ball with Estime and keep Riley Leonard off the field. Riley Leonard is one of those guys that I kind of gravitate to as a player, just because, just like Cam Rising or Max Dugan last year, he's kind of that type of player, man. You can just tell by the way he plays. He leaves it all out on the field. He's a tough kid. I like what he does. They're going to have to keep the ball out of his hands, man. He's made some big throws. We saw it against Clemson. He makes some big runs. That's just kind of what that kid does. And Duke is very motivated. Just they're riding the hype right now, and they look good. Both these two teams, though, are almost identical in stats, offensive, defensively. They both average right around 460 yards per game, which is pretty crazy. And they only give up 260 yards per game. So something's going to give in this one. I expect this game to, be super, super close down to the wire. It is at Duke. I think that gives them an advantage in this game. And I think Notre Dame is actually favored by 5 right now, currently, when I looked at the last line. And I'm going to give you my prediction right now. Call me crazy, but give me Notre Dame 28. Duke 24.
Chris.
Oh, boy.
I'm going to probably regret doing this. After this.
You're not going against Duke.
Give me Notre Dame 35. Duke 28.
Wow. You went against the Blue Devils? Finally?
Here's my take on it, right? I think Duke has had a Cinderella start to their season this far, right? If Notre Dame would have held on and beat Ohio State, right, I think this might be a trap game for them. I think the fact that they lost that game, they're going to have to travel on the road here. They're going to be fired up. They're going to be pissed off. And I just think it's going to be too much for Duke. I mean, let's be honest. The first game that they beat Clemson was the first game of the season. It was on the road for Clemson. They were trying to get a new offensive coordinator and a new quarterback sort of sync together. And they just, everything that could go wrong for Clemson did go wrong for them.
Turnovers inside the 10-yard line. There was like 3 of them,
And it was like one of those things where you're like, there's some divine intervention going on, and Clemson just, it ain't their night. I think in this one, it goes the opposite way. And I just think that a good Duke team is going to face a legit top 10, a legit top 10 Notre Dame team, and they're going to run into that buzzsaw after a fresh off a loss.
Let me say this, because before I made my prediction, I was doing my research and copious notes, as I always do during the week, like you do. This is the toughest game for me to predict, this whole entire slate, and I'm sure it is probably for you, or one of the tougher ones. If Notre Dame would have won last week, would you have picked Duke this week? Because this is the reason why I didn't pick Duke. I figured that Notre Dame had lost that close, heartbreaking at home, just the way that whole thing ended. That's honestly the reason why I leaned Notre Dame in this game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's why I did it. Honestly, that's why I picked Notre Dame. If Notre Dame would have won that game by 1 or 2 touchdowns, whatever have you, whatever they would have needed to do to win that game, I give me Duke in this one. I think it would have been just and we survived versus right. that anger that you get from losing to Ohio State and then have to hear Ryan Dago call out, basically the celebrity mascot of Lou Holtz for your team.
I thought he was dead. I didn't know he was
I thought, and it's like, okay, so now that's bulletin board material for next year. This is one of those I think this is one of those losses that refocuses you as a team, gets you back on track, and the moment isn't too big for you the rest of the way. We'll see how Notre Dame responds, though.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I just really wanted to know. This was it was our last game we did on our preview tonight. I had such a hard time I was back and forth the entire week about who I'd take in that game. If I was betting that game, who would I take? And I thought, God, if Notre Dame would have won last week, I would have probably said, hey, Duke's going to get this one. Notre Dame coming off that high. Because you see that a lot in college football, right? The ups and downs of college football are crazy compared to the NFL. And it's just like, that's usually what happens. But now I think you said it, the motivation factor. Notre Dame can't afford to lose another game now. They can't if they want to make a playoff. This is do or die. Duke's still in the ACC hunt. Duke's still got, though, the gauntlet of Clemson, Miami, who's looked really good. I don't know if they play North Carolina this year, and I think they probably play Florida State. ACC's kind of up for grabs with a slew of those other teams other than Florida State. So Clemson's definitely out of it. But, I mean, it's just a crazy rest of the schedule for Duke going on. I got to take Notre Dame in this one.